A local group trying to get its hands on a tugboat from World War II that was built right here in Central Florida.
The problem is, it's all the way over in Europe. Fox 35's Sydney Cameron shows us how they plan to get it back here to Florida.
It's our holy grail. It's that rare.
It's this World War II tugboat built in West Volusia County in 1944, then given to the U.S. Army and believed to be used at the D-Day invasion of Normandy.
Discovered half a dozen still existed around the world, and yet this is the only one that still has the original engine, and the original superstructure is largely intact.
But it's stuck nearly 5,000 miles away in Sweden, says history buff Daniel Friend. A couple owns it, but because of the pandemic, they're looking to part with it. Now Friend, who's president of the nonprofit DeLand Historic Trust Incorporated, wants to bring ST479 home after 77 years.
This is the last of only 29 tugboats built on Lake Beresford during World War II by people in West Volusia and the DeLand area.
The U.S. Army used tugboats built on U.S. coastal towns during World War II to move loads all over the world. If the nonprofit can get the tugboat to make the voyage from Sweden to Volusia County, they want to put it along the St. Johns River, either at Edstone Park or here at Lake Monroe Park. It will be part of a World War II monument to honor the 44 West Volusia service members killed during World War II.
We're getting strong donations from the community. We need more. We need corporate support.
Sydney Cameron, Fox 35 News.
Well, a piece of history making its return. A World War II era tugboat created in DeLand will soon be back in Volusia County. Quite the story here. The boat was just brought back to the U.S. from Europe.
The project more than a year in the making. News 6's Molly Reed shows us how leaders are preparing this piece of the past for its future.
DeLand City Commission started their conversations this morning about where the tugboat could go now that it's back in the U.S. Right now, their hope is to try to put it in a park near the river, but first it's going to be a matter of getting it to DeLand.
It's a completely unknown part of American World War II history. The tug that's coming back is the only one to ever return home out of the 550 U.S. Army World War II ST tugboats.
And its name is the ST Tiger, one of 29 of those tugboats built in a factory on Lake Beresford in DeLand. Dan Friend, president of the DeLand Historic Trust, says it was likely used in Normandy.
To build on the docks off of the French coast, to recover bodies. I mean, there were so many things. The tugs were essential.
Friend started research on the tugboats decades ago, even creating a website about them. About a year ago, he got a call from a couple in Sweden. They had the Tiger and would give it to him, but he had to pay for transport. The group started raising money. Then what he calls an anonymous angel came along.
Who said, I will give you $200,000 to bring the boat home to Jacksonville, and after that you're on your own.
On July 10th, it was brought back to the U.S. Right now, it's being held outside of Jacksonville. Friend and the other volunteers working on it will know next week if it can come down by itself.
We're going to bring her home on her own power. We're 90% certain. It's a diesel, and those old diesels, after 20 years, they crank right up.
How soon it gets to DeLand also depends on funding. The DeLand Historic Trust is fundraising again for paint, transportation, and monument costs. But Friend says one way or another, the Tiger is coming home.
It goes past the city of DeLand. This is the only U.S. Army ST tugboat to ever come back to America, to the very place where it was built. The only one. That's extraordinary.
In DeLand, Volusia County, I'm Molly Reed getting results, News 6.
He's worked in real estate. He's been an educator, but it's in retirement that Dan Friend, president of the nonprofit DeLand Historic Trust Incorporated, is making history. West 2's Claire Metz reports Friend is closing in on his dream to bring a World War II tugboat made in DeLand back to DeLand.
This is the only U.S. Army ST tugboat to ever come back to America.
And this is it, the ST479, the Tiger, 86 feet long, 23 feet wide, 140 tons of steel. There were 550 STs, small tugs, sent into World War II, 29 of them made in DeLand's Lake Beersford area, including the Tiger. Dan Friend believes it was built in time to be used in Normandy.
90% probability they used every one they could get over there that was built in time. They had to have them to build the docks off of the French coast, to recover bodies. I mean, there were so many things.
Friend's passion for all things military, he's also the city's military curator, led him to discover the Tiger in private ownership in Sweden. The owners offered it to Dan, but he had to raise $200,000 to cargo the Tiger across the Atlantic.
I found an angel, a local patriotic angel, who said, I will give you $200,000 to bring the boat home to Jacksonville.
The Tiger's now berthed in Green Cove Springs. Dan and others working to clean it up and get the tug to DeLand under its own power, down the St. Johns, across Lake George. Dan says the tug won't be just the pride of the city and county, it's a national treasure. The lone tug to return from battle, Dan Friend, its warrior.
I'm known to be tenacious about things, and I just kept plugging along and talking to people, and it happened.
Though his angel, the anonymous donor, did the lion's share, getting that tug back to the States, Dan Friend says he's now working through his nonprofit, the DeLand Historic Trust, Inc., to finish the job, get the tug back to DeLand and into a static monument. In DeLand, Volusia County, Claire Metz, West 2 News.
Earlier this month, we told you about the efforts to bring a piece of history back to its Central Florida roots. Tugboats created locally, then sent across the Atlantic to help fight World War II.
What's even more surprising, they were built inland, just off the St. Johns River near DeLand. Tonight, a look at one man's quest to bring one home.
The port at Green Cove Springs in Clay County is a resting stop for ships from far and wide. Many with stories of better times, but none with the history.
It's older than anything here, for sure.
Of this latest arrival.
You know, there's nothing here that compare to a boat that was in Europe and in the war.
Moored at the end of Pier 1 is the tugboat known as Tiger.
We're on ST479 Tiger, a U.S. Army small harbor tug. Built during World War II.
And thanks to Dan Friend, ST479 Tiger,
it is amazing,
is coming home.
And they started up within 6 months of Pearl Harbor. They were building tugboats on Lake Beersford and DeLand.
A total of 29 tugboats were built for the Army on the shores of Lake Beersford. Small Tug 479 was one of them.
And more than likely, it was built in time to serve in Normandy, to help the invasion effort, to build the Mulberry docks off of the coast of Omaha Beach that were so vital, so crucial to our victory at the Normandy invasion.
And that's what makes this tug so special.
This is absolutely original.
To Dan Friend.
From World War II.
And it's why he traveled across the globe to bring it back.
We refer to this as a quest to return ST479.
And it has been quite a journey. Friend tracked the boat down to a canal in Sweden, where it had been for more than 20 years.
It was a working boat, and that's how she survived. To me, and I like old things, it's like finding a 200-year-old flintlock musket that's never been messed with. The wood's funky and it's rusty, but it's real, it's original.
Real, original, and in need of repair. The Friend is up for the challenge.
I mean, we've got a long way to go.
After a successful fundraising effort, last month, ST479 made it back to the port of Jacksonville. Its story and Dan's now one in the same.
How do people find something that they thoroughly enjoy doing and feel like it's worth doing? I feel like this is worth doing.
think he likes a
Wow.
project. Pretty cool. A friend says the plan is to first paint the boat and eventually display it as a part of a memorial in West Volusia County. If you know someone who is getting results, you can nominate them for the News 6 Getting Results Award. Just head to clickorlando.com, find the form under the Getting Results tab right there on the homepage.
God bless him. What an unusual story.
Right, and for him to have that interest in particular.
I love it. Hopefully he can, share more of that knowledge with everyone in our community.
This World War II tugboat will soon be on display in Volusia County following a massive effort to get it home.
The boat's in Astor, Florida, after coming 4,900 miles from Stockholm, Sweden.
Dan Friend, a retired teacher and history buff, says the boat was built in West Volusia County in 1944. It was then given to the U.S. Army and believed to be used in the D-Day invasion of Normandy. The Army used the tugboats to move loads all over the world. Friend says having one back into land would be a rare sight.
None of them ever came home back to where they were built. It's like a completely unknown chapter of World War II history, sailing home after 78 years.
Friend led a major fundraising effort to get the tugboat from Sweden to Jacksonville. It's now in Astor, and the goal is to get it to the land on January 15th. The next step is to find a permanent site.
We found a good location for it right across from Edstone Park, where the water's deep enough and out of the way enough for us to leave her there for a little while.
And Friend has bigger plans for the final site, hoping to make it a place rich in history for West Volusia.
We do have interesting plans developing for more than one monument to be built in the same location with wherever Tiger ends up going.
In DeLand, Vicki Carr, Fox 35 News.
Well, history is coming full circle. A World War II era tugboat created here in Central Florida will soon be brought home.
The ST Tiger was supposed to be back into land by November, but the hurricanes postponed the trip. News 6's Molly Reed has an update on the work it's taking to get the boat back here and what those behind the project hope to see come from it.
After some delays, the organization behind getting the Tiger back here to the land says it will officially be back on January 15th. But they say they also need to raise some more money and collect donations to get it set up once it is here.
The boat's in Astor, Florida, after coming 4,900 miles from Stockholm, Sweden.
And soon, Dan Friend with the DeLand Historic Trust says the ST Tiger will make its final leg of the journey home.
It's like a completely unknown chapter of World War II history, sailing home after 78 years.
The Tiger was one of 29 of these tugboats built in the factory on Lake Beersford in DeLand for World War II.
They made over 550 U.S. Army World War II ST tugboats for harbor use all around the world in World War II.
Friend started research on the tugboats decades ago, even creating a website about them. In early 2021, he got a call from a couple in Sweden. They had the Tiger and wanted to know if he wanted it.
I found 6 boats around the world. 5 of them had been completely rebuilt and butchered, and they were just basically the hulls. This one was intact.
Friend and the Historic Trust collected almost $300,000 in donations to bring the Tiger back to the U.S. In July of this year, it traveled back to America from Sweden. Friend hoped it would be back in DeLand in November, but the hurricanes pushed that back.
We found a good location for it right across from Edstone Park, where the water's deep enough and out of the way enough for us to leave her there for a little while.
Friend says they're still talking with city leaders in different parts of Volusia County to find a permanent spot for it. But he says now that they've cleaned her up, they're going to need to raise even more money to turn her into the memorial.
Extreme expenses involved. I think we have to raise at least another $200,000 to $300,000.
Now, if you are interested in donating, I'm putting all that information up on our website, clickorlando.com. Just look for this story. In DeLand, Volusia County, I'm Molly Reed, Getting Results, News 6.
Well, a setback in the journey home now. It's going to take a little longer for a World War II era tugboat built right here in Central Florida to return. The piece of history is now stuck. News 6's Catherine Silver has the update tonight.
On the St. Johns River in Astor sits a piece of history. Now stuck, this tugboat named Tiger has settled into the mud, so here she stays.
We're on ST479 Tiger, a U.S. Army small harbor tug. built during World War II.
We've spoken to Dan Friend with the DeLand Historic Trust before about his mission to move this 140-ton tug back to DeLand. This recent delay is just another stop for a boat with such a rich history.
More than likely, it was built in time to serve in Normandy, to help the invasion effort, to build the Mulberry docks off of the coast of Omaha Beach that were so vital, so crucial to our victory at the Normandy invasion.
The Tiger was built in a factory on Lake Beresford in DeLand. Last year, it finally made it back stateside thanks to a $200,000 anonymous donation that paid for its transport to Jacksonville. So much time and money to get the boat to this point in the St. Johns River, where it now sits, finally waiting to come home.
And so another chapter begins to make this mighty tug a memorial, with the boat as the centerpiece in DeLand. Friend expects moving the Tiger will have to wait until the river rises.
This is absolutely original.
His passion project, one he's willing to be patient for.
We refer to this as a quest to return ST479.
Catherine Silver, Getting Results, News 6.
And a historic tugboat is now back home in DeLand after spending decades overseas. The 140-ton Tiger tugboat returned Sunday. It was built in DeLand back in 1944 and used in Europe during World War II.
This World War II tugboat will soon be on display in Volusia County following a massive effort to get it home.
The boat's in Astor, Florida, after coming 4,900 miles from Stockholm, Sweden.
Dan Friend, a retired teacher and history buff, says the boat was built in West Volusia County in 1944. It was then given to the U.S. Army and believed to be used in the D-Day invasion of Normandy. The Army used the tugboats to move loads all over the world. Friend says having one back into land would be a rare sight.
None of them ever came home back to where they were built. It's like a completely unknown chapter of World War II history, sailing home after 78 years.
Friend led a major fundraising effort to get the tugboat from Sweden to Jacksonville. It's now in Astor, and the goal is to get it to the land on January 15th. The next step is to find a permanent site.
We found a good location for it right across from Edstone Park, where the water's deep enough and out of the way enough for us to leave her there for a little while.
And Friend has bigger plans for the final site, hoping to make it a place rich in history for West Volusia.
We do have interesting plans developing for more than one monument to be built in the same location with wherever Tiger ends up going.
In DeLand, Vicki Carr, Fox 35 News.
Welcome back. A historic tugboat has finally made its way home to DeLand after a long but worthwhile journey. The 140-ton boat was built in Central Florida and used in World War II. News 6's Jerry Askin was there for the historic homecoming.
Even hours before, the historic World War II tugboat made its way back to DeLand Sunday.
We got here about 7:15.
People camped out in excitement, anticipating the boat's final voyage back home to DeLand.
And to have it come back to its original building place is kind of cool.
Craig Walker is a U.S. Navy veteran. He and his Rotary Club members were at Edstone Park along the St. Johns River early Sunday, prepping snacks for the crowd of people who showed up to see the warboat for themselves.
I'm excited to see it get down here. My father-in-law helped build these things.
We found Tiger with its original World War II engine still in place, the original superstructure still in place.
Dan Friend is president of the DeLand Historic Trust Incorporated and said the boat was built in DeLand in 1944 and was in Europe during the World War II era. He's made it his mission to move the more than 140-ton boat back home to DeLand. Last year, it finally returned to the U.S. thanks to a generous donation that paid for its transport in Jacksonville, but it faced a minor setback after getting stuck in Astor in the mud earlier this year.
We knew it would come up, and it did. And we're bringing it home to get it into a secure location before we have another hurricane like Ian.
And this boat really has a lot of history, and that's why people here in DeLand are trying to find ways to preserve it. I'm told there's even a possibility of making the boat into a memorial.
We're going to have a monument dedicated to all the builders and crews of all the U.S. Army STs in World War II.
A homecoming that many say is so good to see.
I've always been excited about it, and the story is just fantastic.
In DeLand, I'm Jerry Askin, getting results. News 6.
Welcome back tonight. A World War II tugboat originally built in DeLand is finally back in Florida. The boat was towed all the way from Sweden. West 2's Liv Johnson shows us how it finally made its way back to Florida and what members of the community want to see next.
It's been a long journey for ST479 the Tiger. It's been to Europe and back. It fought in World War II, and now it's the only U.S. Army ST tugboat to make its way back to where it was built. Now the people who made this happen want to make sure it finds its forever home in Volusia County.
This boat is priceless. We intend to make it a national monument.
For Dan Friend, this project is personal. He's a former history teacher and the current president of DeLand Historic Trust Incorporated. He found out about the 150-ton tugboat ST479 the Tiger more than a decade ago. He's been trying to get it home ever since.
I was amazed to find out that the boat still had the original engine and superstructure. It's unheard of.
Getting the boat was no easy feat. The Tiger, which was used during the Normandy invasion and serviced along the English Channel, eventually ended up being privately owned by a couple in Sweden. Friend says a generous donor gave $250,000 to help transport it back to the U.S. For the last several months, it's been in Jacksonville and then Astor. Jerry Vandenboom is one of dozens of people from Astor who traveled with the Tiger on Sunday to watch it get back to DeLand.
It's living history. That is history.
Tiger tug to 44 bridge tender. We are getting fired up and going to be underway here in a little bit.
And the job's not done yet. Dan Friend, Ken Lathrop, and Mayor of DeLand, Chris Cloudman, want to make the Tiger a national monument. They're asking Volusia County for help.
And we need our county commissioners to help us make that happen. They're the ones that control the park areas that this would fit right into as a World War II memorial.
The plan is to keep the Tiger in Lake Beresford until there is a permanent spot to make it a monument. In Volusia County, I'm Liv Johnson, West 2 News.
Update to a Getting Results Award winner we first featured more than a year ago.
Yeah, when we last met Dan Friend, he had just brought a vintage tugboat back home from Europe. The boat has ties to Central Florida and may have even been part of one of the biggest chapters in U.S. history.
Now it needs a permanent home, but finding one may be his biggest challenge. News 6's Julie Broughton explains.
This part of the river is known as Beresford Bend. It's a channel that comes out of Lake Beresford.
A trip up the St. Johns River can be like going back in time.
Right there.
And for Dan Friend, the clock stops in 1944.
It's always fun to visit Tiger.
Tiger is this 86-foot-long World War II era tugboat. It weighs 200 tons, and it's got a grip on Friend.
I look at an amazing old rusty tugboat that is unique in the world. It's interesting to say this, but this boat has kind of taken over my life.
The retired history teacher has become arguably the world's best and only expert on these World War II tugboats.
Believe it or not, this is the original anchor mechanism.
28 others just like this were built less than a mile from here on the shores of Lake Beresford. At least 16 went to Europe, where they most likely played a part after the invasion at Normandy. Friend has dedicated most of the last 12 years to researching their story. Now, he can't wait to share it.
I have found 2 other boats that have the similar upgrade.
ST479 Tiger was found decaying in a canal in Stockholm, Sweden. After years of hard work and fundraising, Friend was able to bring it home.
This is the only one that was still original. Made all the difference in the world to us in terms of a collectible.
But years on the water have taken their toll.
The entire superstructure has bits and pieces of rust. This is the worst. It's not leaking, but rust never sleeps.
Restoration efforts can't start until it's taken out of the water.
When I first pulled up information on this tugboat, there was a story that this entire pilot house had been rebuilt because it was destroyed in a German grenade attack.
Turns out that's probably not true. But in Friend's mind, that doesn't mean its history is any less significant. That's why he's tirelessly trying to get a monument built to display it and memorialize all the boats built in DeLand.
Every time I come on board, I feel like saying hello to the ghosts of all the men that were here.
After years of chasing the past, Friend's focus is now on the future.
I just wish I had a clearer vision on exactly how this is all going to play out. It's been in the water 80 years, so it's time to bring her out.
Wow, 80 years in the water. Friend's latest effort is a letter writing campaign to state officials asking for public lands where Tiger can be displayed. He's hoping for a state grant or private donations to help him with the funding. And I feel like it's so important to him. It has to be so important to other people.
Yeah.
I mean, what
I love
a great
how he
cause.
has such reverence for that boat and the history it represents.
Yeah, saying he feels like he's saying hello to all the ghosts when he steps on. So much respect for it.
Yeah, that's awesome.